Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mornings on Main for our September webinar. As we're waiting for folks to come in and join us, just wanted to remind everybody that you're coming in the listen-only mode. You're automatically muted. You can change that functionality either from your phone to your computer back and forth with the control panel on the right, as the slide demonstrates. We also want this to be as interactive as we can with a webinar format, and we'll want you guys to ask questions. Sorry, distracted by my phone, making sure everything's working all right. We've got folks out there helping us make sure that everything's coming through loud and clear, so I apologize for that. But we want this to be as interactive as possible. There's a question box that you can type in your questions as we go through. And then certainly at the end, because we'll have about a 45-minute presentation from our presenters this morning, and then do about a 15-minute question and answer. So please feel free to type those questions in as you think about them, and I'll kind of moderate that as we go through the end here. And if for some reason we don't get to all the questions, or you think of something later that you'd like to ask or inquire about, there's my email address, kwinge@momainstreet.org. Send me an email. And also, you'll get a follow-up email from us with a survey and just a thank you, and you can reply to that too if you have any questions. So let's get started, but before we do that, I just want to give you the date for our next webinar. It'll be on October 7th, and we're going to do an update on the County CARES Act dollars. We've got some great examples to showcase from across the state that have been using CARES Act dollars for various purposes, supporting small businesses, supporting some of the nonprofits. So we're going to share some of that. So if you need to help boost or nudge your county folks or your city folks on how to spend the rest of those dollars before the end of the year, there'll be some good information out of that for sure. And that'll be October 7th, our normal time at 8:30. So I want to bring us to our presenters, and while I do that, I'm going to go ahead and turn, let's see, it's going to be messy because we're going to switch over here, but I'm going to give the presenter mode to Shawnette while I do the introduction. Shawnette, I think, did I do that? Oh, here we go. All right. Sorry, it's a little different. I'm not in my office with two monitors today. We're in St. Louis working with an Urban Maine program. So Shawnette, you should have that now.
There we go.
There we go. So I want to introduce Shawnette and Anne-Marie. They're with Front Door Back, and we actually saw their presentation at the Seattle National Main Street Conference, and just loved the content that they provided, helping business owners understand shoppers and how they should present themselves to those shoppers. And in this COVID world, a lot of that has changed and disrupted. So we thought it would be very important to bring these two on to help us understand that. So both Shawnette and Anne-Marie have combined their expertise, over 20 years of experience in retail design, research, marketing, and sales. They've worked independently and together with small businesses, both regionally, nationally, international. Those independent businesses, a lot is what they've done. So talking about retail trends, shopping behavior, the nuances of Main Street organizations and businesses give Front Door Back the competitive edge that they share in their presentations and one-on-one personal on-site consultation. So we want to welcome them, and Shawnette and Anne-Marie, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Main Street. Thank you so much for waking up with us. I love that your nickname is Mo Main Street, because I think everybody could use a little Mo Main Street. I love that. So thank you. I'm Anne-Marie. This is Shawnette in the gold, in the blonde. A lot of people get us confused. We are Front Door Back. We are a retail research and design agency. And the two of us have been, as Keith said, have been in retail in some form or another for over 20 years and have been working together for about 10 now. but we've done sales and marketing and shopper insights and store design and fixture design and product examination and on and on and on. So we are retail experts and we are retail design experts. And what we typically do when it's not a COVID talk is that we typically share our knowledge primarily with National Main Street associations like you, and we give a 90-minute best practices talk. And that best practices talk is what we're going to do at the end of this month, actually, when we come out to visit. Tells how to create and maintain excellent stores. And then we follow up that talk. We get everybody on the same page in the same room, so everybody's speaking the same language, all the stakeholders, the retailers, the property owners, the developers. We get everybody speaking the same language, and then we do one-on-one store consults. And in those one-on-one store consults, the stores are predetermined, and of course the store owners have invited us, and we start outside of the store, and we certainly want to hear what your top issues are, but the first thing that we have to do is take a look at what we see as the top foremost issues. And we take a look at everything outside that is customer facing. So the paint and the windows and the awnings and the signage and everything that a customer can see. We take a look at, we evaluate to make sure that it is doing the best it can for you and your store or your business. Then we move with those folks inside the store where we walk through the shopper journey. So we walk your store as a shopper would, and we talk about things like first impressions and traffic flow and fixture placement and merchandising and just the overall what we call shoppability of your store. So the end result is you've spent about 90 minutes, you've seen this 90-minute presentation, you spent over an hour with us one-on-one in your space, and then we come up with what our top 5 recommendations are for you to move the needle in your store. And some of those are short term, some of those are a quick fix, like moving a piece of furniture. Some of those are a little bit longer fixes, like changing your lights. But we take what you want to learn about and we add what we see and we deliver a report. So that's your final deliverable, is that we give you a report after we visited your store. So that's how we typically work through a store and talk about best practices. And you want to go to the next slide? Yeah. Everything that drives our approach when we visit Main Street, everything comes down to these 5 beliefs. And that is that we believe so strongly that experience matters. And experience is what is going to keep people in stores and offline. So we want to help build the best in-store experience that we can. We believe that strong districts are made of strong stores. We believe that those strong stores are stores that show us who they are and what they're all about versus just telling us. And we believe very strongly that to build that best experience that keeps people in store, you have to understand your shopper and you have to understand your shopper journey. And then lastly, we believe that we don't always just completely tear down the walls and start over. We believe strongly that small changes can make a big difference. So what we're going to start out with before we talk COVID, Shauna's going to show us some of those small changes, just some small things that we do that have made differences in some of the businesses that we've worked with.
Yeah. So here's the first example. And whenever you watch a makeover show or go through a magazine, I love the before and after. So that's what we're serving up first here. And this store is a cute, nice and tidy sort of. It's a stationary store, but it's not remarkable, but it's cute. We decided that to help create a little bit more of a landmark and improve their visibility was do one small thing, and it was to paint their door. And it moves it from look for paper jam and look for our sign on the right-hand side of the street to drive down and look for the pink door. And it helps become a wayfinding measure. And it's a simple thing to do, but color carries emotion, and therefore it improves visibility, and it's a quick win. This one example is a store that's being overwhelmed by an overabundance of signage. Your eye doesn't know where to go. Even the very the topical reader board out front that has the daily special is going to be overlooked because you're still trying to sort out everything else. Our recommendations are to calm it down, pull out only the most priority and high value information. And signage best practices is something that we're going to talk about today too. You've got to edit and just refresh the entryway, manage all the surfaces. If your shopper can see it, we want to address it to make sure it's moving your brand forward. And we've gone from overwhelming to understandable in the Italian deli. And then the next one that we've got to share with is it's from a small move to a little bit progressively more involved. We like to look at painting, we like to look at lighting, and we took this building that was set back in a parking lot off of a pretty busy street, and as you're beginning to enter the downtown area, they just wanted to create more of a street presence and refresh. So what we did here to help connect them, because, you know, in terms of where your district starts, you have to think about where people are starting to mentally enter the downtown district, and this building was at part of the gateway. So to participate and more fully engage and 24 hours a day in the district, we added some paint and we added some lighting. They were already doing pretty good because they had the flower pots out there and they didn't have pennants and tires and everything else draped all over the place for an auto center. So I thought they were doing pretty good before, but we took them to the next level. And now they have a 24/7 presence, and it's just a more active, awake storefront. So those are the type of changes that we like to look for and make recommendations on, so that we can bring you alive to your customers and help connect and knit together the district. And this is we went inside the paper store here, that stationery store, and they had asked to figure out ways to utilize and create more of a powerful wall and increase their retail sales. So we taught them, came up with a presentation and merchandising plan, and had some custom fixtures made. We had some shelves that we put on there. And I don't know if you can notice this, but we even had them take the dark gray that kind of capped the retail area. It's on my screen, it's on the left, but on the right where you see the pink squares, simple little things like lift the dark gray paint up just to give your display some height. Anyway, it's these type of things that we absolutely enjoy, figuring out how to increase your sales per square foot, how to increase the number of impressions that are positive that people are making. And that's just a little peek on some of the inside things that we like to do. So today, in terms of COVID, as Anne Marie talked about, we always take the viewpoint of what is your shopper seeing and experiencing. And if you can unpack that, then you're going to have a way to address where you need to fix things and kind of bone up your services. So we've chunked it into two big things. Anne Marie's going to cover the big picture in terms of the shopper mentality and insights, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about the physical space. And you see, I'll talk about it in terms of before the store and at the store and in the store. But let me hand this back to Anne Marie, and she's going to start with the big picture.
Great, thank you. So these are just some big ideas that really cast shadows on everything that we're going to talk about throughout this deck today. Some things that are happening out there in the world that have come into your store. And the first big picture concept that ripples through everything that we're going to discuss is anxiety. Because right now, out there in the world, there is this pervasive feeling of anxiety. So everybody, I mean, Shawnette and I live in the Pacific Northwest in Portland, Oregon, where you've been hearing, you know, all of our protests and our wildfires and the smoke, and that's on top of COVID. So we're already stressed and anxious, and then we have all of these other things happening in our community. But the reason, you know, we're watching the COVID cases, we're watching the economy, we're watching unemployment, we're watching all the protests and the civil unrest, and that creates a general feeling of anxiety. And it's important that you guys are aware of that, because this is what shoppers are bringing into the store with them. So shoppers are a little bit fragile right now. We're all a little anxious, and recognizing that will help you to help quell them. So one of the ways that you can quell that anxiety is by being clean and safe. And it sounds really easy, but in this day and age, it's imperative. So everybody is expecting that retailers are clean and safe. If you're open, they're expecting that you're going to be clean and safe. And we suggest that you are demonstrative in your cleanliness and your safety. So not just clean, but sanitary. So be theatrical in your cleaning. So things like leave a bottle of Clorox wipes out, have more than one hand sanitizer station. So be theatrical and be demonstrative with your safety. So for example, if you want people to keep a 6-foot distance, then you mark it on your floor and you abide by that. If you're asking people to wear a mask in your store, then you wear a mask and you don't pull it down to your chin just to give them a quick little aside. So the expectation is for clean and safety. And if you provide clean and safe, sounds so simple, but if you provide a clean and safe environment, then you quell the shopper. And that is what we want, is to calm the shopper, to get them back in as much of a normal state of mind as we can. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is meeting people where they are. So we already talked about figuratively, they're a little anxious and fragile. And so we're meeting them emotionally where they are there, and that's, addressing that with clean and safe. But we also want to meet them literally where people are. And where people are right now, more than they have ever been, is online. People are shopping online and they're on social media more than they ever have been. So that's where you need to be. So we're going to talk about ways that you can go to your shopper, and then understanding how they come to you. The other very literal meaning of meeting customers where they are is that it's a new world right now. So you're meeting them, maybe not in your store, but maybe at the curb, or maybe obviously you're meeting them online, and maybe you're meeting them at their doorstep. So just being aware of meeting people where they are has several different facets: the emotional facet and the physical facet. So let's talk a little bit about shopping, the way that we're shopping. COVID has changed the way that we're shopping. And right now, shoppers are venturing out, but they're venturing out very slowly and very cautiously. We as shoppers have been asked not to make non-essential trips. So therefore, the trips that we're making are missions. We are mission shopping. And when we mission shop, we're not entertainment shopping. So we're not going to the mall just for fun. We're going for a thing. We're going for a reason. This will calm down as things get safer, and post-COVID, we'll go back to entertainment shopping. But right now, nobody really wants to be in the store for any longer than they have to be. We're seeing them getting in, getting their products, and getting out. So that affects a few things. It affects, number one, their overall time in store may be a little bit shorter. You may have fewer shoppers, but the shoppers who are coming in, even though they're coming in for less time, their percentage of buying is higher. So their shopper conversion rate is higher because they're not coming in just to browse, they're coming in for a thing, they're buying. So that's a good thing. And then literally, really gonna break this down into the nitty gritty, the way that we shop. COVID has also really impacted this. So typically every time we shop, we start with our eyes, but then we move quickly onto our hands. So we look, and then we touch, and then we try, and then we check out the price. And if all of those things make sense to us, then we get to the buy. But right now, you may be asking your shoppers, and your shoppers may be already on their own doing less of the touch, because we don't want to get our cooties on things, right? So we're doing less touching. So that means we have to help shoppers shop with their eyes. So your merchandising is incredibly important. So for example, and we'll talk about this in depth, for example, the price is an important determining factor whether you buy something or not. So if you can pull that price out, so this mission shopper can see the information that they need and get to it and make their decision about buying or not buying. And this whole mission shopping leads into the next slide, which is something called access versus excess. So you want to be sure that your shoppers can get to what it is that they need to get to. So you have to clear out some of the excess. So we're making stores streamlined as possible. And that might mean that, so you really want to focus on your core offering, your core, your profit center. And this may mean some remerchandising. And we're not just going to throw that out there and say, ready, set, go. We're going to give you some examples of how to remerchandise. But But clearing the excess may mean removing a couple of fixtures. It may mean clearing some product off of some fixtures so that you can focus on the core product. But this concept of access versus excess helps that mission shopper, and it helps shoppers overall. This access versus excess also feeds into signage. We're going to talk about that. Clearing away everything right now that clouds our vision and helping us narrow our vision and narrow our scope to what we want. Retailers who can help shoppers narrow their focus will win. So that's access versus excess. That's a big picture issue. The next big picture issue that is not going to go away is how we are fulfilling our missions, how we're fulfilling our purchases. So we talked about the fact that more shoppers than ever are online right now. So with online, they're getting delivery, and delivery is pretty convenient, right? So they're shopping online, they're buying online, they're discovering all these new fulfillment methods. So of course we have delivery, like I said, but we also have BOPIS, which is buy online, pick up in store. We have porch drops, we have curbside, and these are convenient. And shoppers are really, studies are showing that shoppers really like this convenience, and they probably won't go away when things go back to quote unquote normal. Meaning that you have to understand what works best for you and your shopper, how you can be creative and fulfill their purchases. And then remember that this is something that has to really work for you, because there will be shoppers who want to continue, who just want to shop you online and have you drop something off at the porch, or who just want to call you and say, could you bring me 5 outfits that have fall colors in them? That would be a porch drop of clothes, for example. So that's something that's not going to change when we go back, and we'll get out of this eventually. The next issue that's not going to change is that's come out of COVID is this concierge service. So right now, speaking of those fulfillment methods, now is the time to be bending over backwards to do what you can to get your products in front of shoppers, or to get shoppers into your store. And some of these concierge services are, like I talked about, like if you're a clothing store, it may not have occurred to you to pick 5 outfits out for someone and drop it on their porch for them to try on at home, pick out what they want, and then you go there and pick up what they don't want and help them make a contactless payment at home. So that's a concierge service that shoppers are loving. And right now, we think that all retailers should be really kind of bending over backwards and getting creative to figure out what they can do to get their products in front of shoppers. And this is going to increase, this is going to up the game for service for everybody, and shoppers are going to come to expect that. So, and we think this is particularly exciting for Main Street because of the hyper locality. There's a lot of stuff that Main Street can do. You can, the owner of a store can drop something off. So you get that, you're not going to get that from Best Buy. You're not going to get the guy who actually owns the store or the manager of the store to drop something off at your porch. So that's a really cool thing that Main Street can provide. And we don't think that should go away. And then lastly, something that has happened because of COVID is that signage has exploded, and we need signage right now. Shawnette and I don't typically advocate for handmade signage. We certainly don't advocate that you put signs up with tape, but we get it. Right now, it's a little bit emergency mode, and these messages are urgent. So there's an explosion of signage, but just remember, we've already been in this for 6 months at least, and it's not going away fast. So some of those quick scrawled handmade signs that you made that you put up with tape, it's time to make semi-permanent signs, okay? And signage is customer service, because signage actually quells shoppers. It comforts them. It tells them what to do and how to do it, how to work the store. So a couple of things to remember about signage is that scale, font, positioning, and content. So those are 4 things to remember when you're putting up signage. Number 1 is scale. It has to be big enough. So you have to know from where your shopper is looking at the sign. So are they looking at it from the curb? So the scale has to speak to where the shopper is looking for the sign. The font choice is really important because you want to keep it clean. This is kind of like that excess versus access. So not a lot of curly Q font, just a nice, clean, simple, clear font. Clear away the excess and let us get to the message. The positioning of the sign is very important. It has to be in the right place. And of course, its content is important. It should be clean and clear and simple, but the content doesn't matter if you don't have it positioned in the right place. So remembering that access versus excess theory and thinking about that for your signage will help you help your shoppers have a better experience in your store. So there are 2 more things that aren't on this list. This is an 8-point list, but there are 2 more things that we think COVID has a direct impact on. And the first one is diction. Diction. We believe because everybody is wearing a mask right now, it's a little hard to hear everybody, and that is frustrating. And that frustration bumped into that anxiety causes a very frustrated, unhappy shopper. So as much as you can, and it seems obvious, but you have to remind yourself and remind your staff that you need to dictate, that you need to speak up, and that you need to speak slowly, and maybe like English is a second language for people, so you're enunciating a little bit more. So we think diction is really important while we're all wearing masks and standing 6 feet away from each other. And then lastly, something that we say in every presentation, but it is particularly important now, is that you say thank you to your shoppers. You really want to extend a thank you for them stepping out of their comfort zone and stepping into your store or onto your website or onto your curb. So thank you. Thanks for coming back to the store. Thanks for coming to the store. Really speaks volumes, and a thank you goes a long way in satisfying shoppers. They really appreciate it. So those are 8 big picture issues that don't have a specific place in store. We're going to go into the store now and talk about how shoppers move through the store. But those 8 things we're going to keep coming back to, that access, excess, and the anxiety, and the clean and safe, and meeting people where they are. We're going to keep coming back to that. But right now, the second part of the deck, we've broken into 3 pieces. And it is, if you go to the next slide, Shawnette, it is what happens before the store, what can you do, and what are the shoppers doing, what's happening at the store, and then we'll finally get into the store. So Shawnette's going to talk about each of these 3 things, and then I'll chime in and do a quick summary for each section. So Shawnette, take it away.
Okay, got it. Make sure this mouse is working here. Cool. So before the store, as Anne Marie said, people they're not in your store, they're online, they're on their phones shopping, or they're sitting at their desks doing some research, seeing what hours you're open there. And there's 2 facets in terms of being online. One is, as they come to look for you to find out information about you, you have to be online, which is stating the obvious, but going to one level deeper is you need to Google yourself and find all the places that you are online. So is your Yelp phone number and hours up to date? Is your Google profile? How about your website? How about have you had an opportunity to update your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter feed? The same urgency and thoroughness of information that you might have printed out and taped onto your door, you need to go through and comb through your online presence and make sure it's accurate. And even then, customers are still going to not necessarily trust the information, and they're probably going to look for a phone number and pick it up and call and hope that somebody live answers just to reassure that, yes, those are current hours and we are open, and what can I help you with, sort of thing. So be findable when your customers come looking for you, and be consistent across everything. The second part of being online is reaching out to your shoppers where they are, and that is crafting your messages on all the different platforms that you have to be able to communicate with them. I think COVID has brought out the necessity that if you didn't have a good customer database yesterday, today is the next best day to start your customer database, because if you don't have an audience, you don't have their phone numbers, or you don't have their emails, or you don't have a home mailing address, you can't reach out to them. You have to wait for them to come to you. So get going on terms of building your following and ways to reach out to them. This particular retailer, I thought, had a great, she had my email because she asked me for it. And when it came time to start to reopen, she sent this email, and I copied and pasted it here on our slide deck and just wanted to dissect it for you because I thought it was really well done. It wasn't overwhelming. It was sent to me at the right time. She doesn't abuse my email, but I'm glad that she told me what was happening. And first of all, she kept her tone positive, and I think setting that expectation helps me also keep a positive outlook towards things. And she also put links in there that if I don't want to read through the whole thing and I kind of have an understanding of what I think she might want to be telling me, I can just click to her website. So positive present tense, here's a link back to my website. And then in the body of the message, it wasn't all text. She put some great photos in there. It was current. That was her store. Actually, she started to merchandise outside and staged it and said, when you come back, I brought some things out to you, because outdoor commerce is where we're starting to see each other. She introduced herself again, and she said, here's what I'm doing for you, and here's what I expect of you to do for me. So here are our new rules of engagement, which is helpful because with everything, all the rules of engagement changing, we can't shake hands anymore. We're doing our fist bumps and our distancing. It just helps to reiterate how we're going to operate when we get to see each other back again. And then she also put in here, she acknowledged that this information is going to change. We've gone from phases depending on where you live in the country and what county and whatnot. So she said, Facebook, come over here, and this is where you're going to find the most current information. So I like that she kind of cross-merchandised her social media platforms. And then at the end, she didn't miss an opportunity to give me something to shop for. And it wasn't closeout. I think I got this email in March. It wasn't closeout Christmas ornaments, which normally she probably would have still been trying to get rid of. It was relevant to what was happening to me right now, and perhaps I'd be interested in some safety supplies. So it was just kind of a 1, 2, 3, and the fact that I got this email was because she had my email address, because she had been developing her database. So don't beat yourself up if you don't have as robust one as you had hoped, but just start building it now and build that into your operating procedures in terms of how you're going to gather the information. Here's another great example. Before, when I showed the Google, Google yourself, I Googled JP General, not by accident, because this is a store that Anne Marie and I both love here in Portland, and they do an excellent job of their outreach. Their outreach, besides their website and their Facebook, was their Instagram. And this is a snapshot of when you scroll through their page, and it is absolutely on brand for them. They've got good curation of the product, and they didn't change filters every time. They didn't put in different text and whirligigs over the top of it. They have a very consistent look throughout here. Yeah, I think that's absolutely important. And I think because we are looking online, this is a bit of a substitute now for us being able to actually, pick up and handle the product. So your picture quality and the focus, the access versus excess, we want you to really crop it and bring my eye to what it is that you want to tell me about, because that is kind of a substitute for my examination procedure. I want the picture to be so good that I might really understand what that texture or what that color is, or that I can see the translucent in it. So the imagery now is even more important, and then how you where you broadcast that imagery is also important. Also reinforce throughout, while people are looking at your products and shopping, don't miss the opportunity to communicate. And it's one thing to say, hey, we're closed, stay in touch, but the next level of information, it's not excess, it is actually what I need. We're doing porch drops. They gave us their phone number and they gave us an email. So they didn't just leave the message out there. They connected the next dot and say, it actually, just call this number and we'll make it happen. So I think helping close that gap between thinking about doing something to enabling somebody being able to do it is our job, to understand and anticipate what's that next piece of information that our shopper's going to need. And they did an excellent job of that here with that. So
yeah, good job. So a quick recap of everything that Shauna just said.
Yeah, Anne loves to summarize, and I love it when she summarizes. I gotta say,
bullet points. More shoppers are online now than ever before, so that is where to speak to your shoppers. So be online, be proactive, and be receptive both. Let people know that you're open, and let people know how you're open and how you're operating. Keep consistency in your information on every piece of and every platform. So if your hours are 9 to 5 or 9 to 2, make sure that's on every platform that you have. And be responsive. If you're putting it out there that you're open and that then people may have questions. So make sure that there's someone who's responsive to answering those questions. And lastly, imagery is key because that is how they are shopping you now, via the imagery. And let's move to at the store, not in the store, at the store.
here we are. I had to share this with everybody because I identified with this so much. I'm tired of reading signs too. I mean, we just have this explosions of signage, and I don't even want to put the effort into that. Just if the door opens, great, I'll go in. Anyway, I thought that was funny. I wanted to share that with you guys because we're all at that point of fatigue. So the most effective way, there's two ways to communicate that you're open now that we're coming back into the public realm and beginning to interact. One way to do it is to actually tell people, and you do that with signage that's at the right location, at the appropriate scale, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You could get a slightly more expensive banner. You could put feather flags that say open out front, and obviously somebody had to be there to put them out on the sidewalk, so somebody's there to open the store. Or you can do something as simple as this in terms of printing on colored cardstock and then dare I say taping it up in the window. But it's effective, and I think it's absolutely appropriate this time that we're going through here. So telling is one way, and the next best other way is to show that you're open and show who you are, and that somebody's home, the lights are on, window displays and windows in general, they carry they're a very important piece of the Main Street District real estate anyway, and even more so now because we are looking for signs of life. Before, we assumed signs of life and we were looking for relevant messages. Is that a store for me? And what's this district like? Because windows are a bellwether of the type and health of the district. Now it's also a bellwether of, are they still open? So having the right type of infrastructure and making sure that you are putting merchandise in there that speaks to who your audience is, and making sure you've got your lights on, and not just during the day, but even into the evening hours, so that it feels like the district and in fact it's still alive and awake. So I also think it's important too that with people not traveling as often or as far or at all anymore, that I think you've got an opportunity to be rediscovered or perhaps discovered for the first time by locals that are looking in their backyard and realizing, I didn't know that was on my main street. So the sentiment's never been higher to come down and support and shop local. And I think having your windows done and ready, and maybe even increase the frequency instead of once a month, which is something that we would recommend on a standard type of schedule, every 2 weeks. And with the change out, that also gives you a message to carry under your social media platform. You've got something to show and new to talk about. So there's all sorts of things that are tied up with this piece of glass that occupies the really large space on your storefront. It is your message board. It's a place for you to create dialogue with the district and for the district to be able to understand what's happening there. Back to JP General. So you saw what they look like online. This is their store in person, and they were doing just that. They were keeping their windows fresh. They were broadcasting that out on their social media. Even though at this time that the photo here was taken, you couldn't go in the store, you could, they still put their sandwich board out and encouraged you to go online. And if by chance you still went up and kind of jiggled the doorknob just in case, they had a display just inside the front door, which basically was a third vignette that they were able to communicate and promote product with. So they anticipated people driving by or just checking, and kept everything alive and active. Also part of the district too, I think now that we are conducting commerce out on the sidewalk and in the public realm for safety and comfort levels, either a retailer will have their pickup zones, or the district can think about Main Street as a coordinator. You can think about how you could support your district and retailers as a whole. These are some branded, dedicated, general purpose pickup zone signage. The tall blue one is in downtown Vancouver there, and then the other one is over in Portland. They even helped with wayfinding over in the Portland area by locating, giving it a name. There's if there's a B, you're assuming there's an A and there's a C. So you're helping with wayfinding with color, you're helping with wayfinding because of continuity, and then even the subcategory of information. But the public realm, the space has a lot of demands on it with outdoor seating and pickup zones and merchandising product out on the sidewalk. So we need to think about the wayfinding that we have in the store. We're going to have to bring that out to the street and apply those same signage principles. Make it simple, make it understandable, make it obvious, and you'll help people navigate the downtown better, and that will assist the retailers in terms of conducting the transactions. Outdoor seating, it's here to stay. I like it. I love having the street be alive with people. We're pack animals. We love to see where everybody else is. We can't have as tight a pack as we used to, but we still like to see signs of life. And this is a parklet that the city, I helped the city design and build. We had like 2 weeks, turn and burn, here you go, but it was fun. And this retailer, this little restaurant here has since draped cafe lights and sun sails over it, and this is a very active, alive, encouraging spot in downtown Vancouver. Sidewalks is where people are spending their time. And if we can't enter a store right away, we're going to wait outside till it's our turn. So we're a captive audience, and I think your sidewalks, we just like to acknowledge that this is a place where we can also communicate with one another. And I loved that this was just a message of hope, that somebody took it upon themselves. And we're trying to connect with one another, and we can't connect physically anymore, but they did their best to connect with me emotionally by calling me and saying, this is going to be all right. I love seeing this. And this is just for everybody. And then this is for the hungry person. We had a retailer that had a really great chalk artist go out and a couple different intersections. And it's a little different. It's different than a sandwich board. It's different than a sign. And because it's different, it got noticed. I mean, if everybody did it, then it wouldn't be so unique. But I thought they did a great job understanding where people's eyes and feet are, and then they put a message right in front of it. The retailers were using our windows and our sidewalks, and this coffee store, as in many areas, has moved their transaction counter out front because we're not going inside, and they did a really good job branding it. They had their logo put out there. They've got all the things that they need for safe transactions with the plexiglass and the hand sanitizer there. And then they even took their menu board, and they didn't put the menu board right at the counter. They put it 2 or 3 spaces back so that the second and third person in line can look in the window, and if they're not familiar with that particular, what their menu items are, they've got time to make their choices, and then they're ready to go ahead and place their order when they get up to the cashier, and that helps keep the line moving as well. So this retailer did a great job. It's not sophisticated. It's just your 10 by 10 farmers market booth, but they did a good job with the table covering and then the banner across there, and then their freestanding signage. It wasn't verbose. It was just in time in just the right place. And you've got basic information, and with all this information, you've got to make sure you don't bury the lead. The primary information on the blue sandwich board on the right is just stay 6 feet apart. And you can tell people on an 8.5 by 11, stay 6 feet apart, but we still don't really quite understand, well, what is 6 feet? I thought, and this is a Bridgeport Village sign on the left that says stay 1 big foot, and it's a Portland Northwest appropriate reference. We all know about Sasquatch up here and how big a Sasquatch is, but stay 1 Bigfoot apart. We saw a toy store refer to and then put on their floors lightsabers, and they encourage people to stay 2 lightsabers apart. So it was kind of fun to help us click into and understand what actually is 6 feet, and then what was unique and memorable about it. So have fun with it. You can be absolutely just down to the, you know, here, business, stay 6 feet, and then you can imbue a little personality in your messaging. So those are the instructions, and that's telling people. The next best step is showing people where 6 feet is and where to stand. And this blurry photo here is a McDonald's, on a McDonald's budget, took and printed these giant decals that were the tops of their burger buns with little sesame seeds in them, and definitely more effective than showing is telling. So they've used their floor to be able to say, go here. This next thing is a farmer's market budget with a farmer's market chalk B on there, and it's just as effective. Stand here, and it helps me know what to do and not have to read a sign. When you've got an audience outside, and perhaps they're waiting to get into your store, they're looking at your customer's neighbors, or perhaps your neighbor's customer is waiting to get in, and they're standing out front of your windows. Realize that this is an opportunity to communicate to them via a window display or being able to see into their store what you're about. Don't miss that opportunity. And it's also, when we have things to look at, we tend to kind of lose track of time. And so our perception of how long we might have had to wait is reduced. And that's a good thing, because we tend to, even though we're all a little bit more patient these days, we don't like to wait for too long. Topical messaging, knowing that we're mission shoppers. This particular store knew that the customers were coming to get these things, and they saved us time, or their customers time, that if you're coming for these things, we don't have them. So that helped alert me to shift gears, and when I did get to go inside the store, I'm going to have to look for substitutes. So this message was helping me accomplish my mission, and it was fantastic customer service, and I would expect a different message taped up tomorrow. Other messaging that's going to be commonplace is occupancy, and that we need to wear masks. And these were, early renditions of that, but we're going to have to begin accommodating the presentation and incorporation of this type of information on our doors. And a customer service, I thought this was a great sign, because just about, you sit down, you open up your laptop, and you're going to treat yourself by working outside and out in the public, and you feel safe enough to do it. And like, what is that password? They thought ahead, didn't tell you everything that they're doing to keep the place clean. They just put their password, their Wi-Fi out there. And I thought that was a great, well-located, well-timed sign. Our windows in our storefronts are where we're having conversations with people that we can't meet in person. And I think it's fantastic if you have an opportunity to showcase your community support. I loved seeing the essential worker support, or other, equity causes. Got a little bug there in the throat. It's the smoke, I tell you. Oh my goodness. So use your windows now to let people know that you care, that you're there. And this was the trifecta for me. Good color story, good arrangement, and there is an uplifting message in there. So this is one for the record books in terms of using your window for all layers of communication. And I'm okay with homespun these days in terms of just writing something up and putting it up there, as long as they know signage best practices and I can read it from a distance if I've meant, to be standing across the street. This is what I want us to avoid, because this is just back to that Italian deli at the very, very beginning. You just get overwhelmed and you don't know where to look. And after a while, you just kind of turn it off. You just turn off. And that's just, it just makes me anxious to read this. Too many colors, too many words, just too many signs. So let's clear it off, start fresh, and tell me 1, 2, or 3 things that you want me to know.
Good job.
Thanks.
So
Summary.
Key summary is that you need to look open. Don't make people guess if you're open or not. You need to look open, and you need to look healthy. And the way to do that is to use your lights and your windows. And your windows are used a little bit differently now. You're still communicating and selling, but now you can do more things like promote and support, show solidarity and support. And you play. There can be some play. Remember that outside is the new safe zone, and that we're queuing outside, both physically, we're just standing outside sometimes more often now, and we're in our cars outside of your store more often, ready for a pickup. So the curbside is here to stay. The outside and the sidewalks need to be activated. And remember that one of the reasons you want to keep those things activated is because you want to lessen that perceived wait time. You don't want to have a great experience end with somebody being frustrated because they had to wait forever, which is not really forever, but it felt that way to them because their wait time wasn't managed. So that was at the store. Now we're going to move to inside the store.
Okay, let's do that. This is one of the owners of JP General. Let's go inside and see what we've got. Before I go to the next slide though, just locate in your mind, remember where that white pedestal is inside relative to the front door. That distance is important. We used to talk about ways to personalize door pulls as a way to really introduce some sort of brand experience. Is the first thing you're going to touch. Now, touch is kind of off limits, and we're leery about that. So this shop has done a customer service, has provided for me. They've already opened the door for me, and I liked that they took that utilitarian rock that they used to prop open the door and they put their color on it. We've seen a lot of rocks and bricks used to prop open doors on Main Street, and they're just plain old rocks. So anything that your customer can see, what can you do to imbue some brand personality into that element there? They opened the door for me, and let's go inside and take a look at this sanitation station. First of all, it's clean and simple. Hi, welcome. Not just you must wear a mask. So it's positive, it's present tense. Here's the top 3 things that we want you to do. And then there's some fine print down below, and then there's just a simple hand sanitizer spray on top. What's key in terms of me saying pay attention to where that was, because if you do it too close to the door, people tend to, they're focused on something in forward and kind of off to the right. When we enter a store, we tend to go past a certain blank area and then head to the right. We'll probably miss this right here. Even though it's fully stocked and they've got everything they need, they're too close and we're likely to miss it. Too far, we've probably started shopping elsewhere in the store, and we're going to end up also missing it because we've been engaged in something else. And even though they've got just what they need there in terms of the hand sanitizer and this tissue, the location matters here. And the signage, it doesn't necessarily present hierarchy to me. Everything's in the same size. And so I liked that we saw the other one, welcome, and here's the things. And then if you want more information, you can find it below. So how you present this, that you have it is important. You need to have these amenities in your store, not just at the front, but we think you should sprinkle it around, because you might end up touching something and then realizing, oh, actually, I kind of want to sanitize here, and you don't want to send them back to the front of the store. So repetition. It can be as utilitarian as this, and on the way into a grocery store, just swipe your hand, or Main Street can do this. I really like this. She staged a t-shirt with her logo on it nearby. She's got fresh flowers. We're bringing some life back into the equation here. A nice handwritten readable sign, silver platter. So the whole thing was welcoming me with all these other aspects and also providing a function here. So this is where I think Main Street can really excel in terms of providing a function, but also giving it some great form. I want to jump to layout and flow and traffic patterns, because when we talk about, people say you're going to need to reset your store and you've got to allow people more room to circulate. I think the principle at play that we want you to take away is that you need to create islands versus aisles. And the example here on the far left, so say somebody's, oh, maybe I'm not going to get to do that. Can you, I can do a pen.
Yeah, do the pen.
I'm going to try to close this down. I can't see, I can't see my screen anymore.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Keith, I'm not calling for help yet, but All right, I don't want to take too much time. I'm going to talk you guys through. I'm going to go back to the normal non-drawing mode. So walk in the door with me in the store on the left where you've got aisles. That green circle dash line, that's where we're just kind of getting our head into the store, figuring out where things are. We've got the cash wrap, that's the CW over there on the left.
Can you
And
use your cursor, your mouse?
can you guys see my mouse? Anne Marie, can you see my mouse?
I can see it.
Okay, we'll use that. So these gray boxes, the rectangles and the circles, those are the actual fixtures. I'm not so concerned about actual product on this, but just traffic flow. So people come in, they tend to kind of they'll come to a focal point, but then they'll kind of do a soft right and then circulate through your store in a counterclockwise way. What happens when you have two people here in the back of the store and you want them to be, you want full coverage. We like to make sure that all real estate, if you're paying for it, is getting shopped. So we want people in the back, but right now the way the old store and with the aisles is set up is that you've created dead ends in the back right and in the back left, and even in these U-shaped areas in the center. On the right, what we want you to do is to shift all these same fixtures around, but we want to give people outlets so when they come in the door and they head to the right and they navigate counterclockwise back towards other product categories, while they're standing on one side of a island fixture, another shopper could be coming back out and create and maintain a safe distance and stand on the other side. And nobody has to stop shopping to accommodate letting somebody else go by. Everybody can self-regulate and still move around through the space, because if you introduce islands, we have a way to exit and to enter gracefully, and we'll just moderate our spacing from one another. So the key concept, and this layout, the only difference is that there was one fixture less, and we took what might have been a back of house process in terms of storage for pickup. If somebody called to place an online order, we brought the buy online, pick up in store. It's now that blue rectangle up front. We put that up front, not only to make it convenient for the staff to be able to get something and run it out to the curb, but also to show we're being a bit theatrical about it. So it's efficiency, but we want to show people that they're in the store now, but they could have called and we would have it right there for them, and it'd be a really convenient and easy transaction. So show what you're about and make it easy for people to circulate throughout the space. And when we first started managing a 6-foot distance, a lot of us put, blue painter's tape with arrows on the floor, and shoppers like to go where shoppers want to go. They don't necessarily like to be told you have to go here. So just placing and giving people a visual cue about how far to stand apart, and use your floor to do that without arrows, just good old dots. Is a great way to do it, and lets me choose which dot I'm going to move to. So let's not over prescribe and say you have to walk this way. Give them options because of your layout, and then let them move and help constantly monitor what that 6-foot gap is. Sherwin-Williams did a fantastic job here. Just simple placement. It went from very simple in this example. This is what not to do on the right, because on the left was their very first stand here, and here's your blue X's. On the right, we're used to standing on X's. X marks the spot, right? That's where you go to. The X in the right on this picture was don't stand here, stand behind this line that has the tape, it has the writing on it. And it was an excess of information and instructions versus access to standing on top of a dot.
It's so confusing. Add to your anxiety, it's like you not even knowing where to stand. It was so confusing.
Yeah. Merchandising, just to stay on course here. So that's layout, islands versus aisles, and then no-touch merchandising. We're going to need to curate a product selection and create a story. And when we just have one of something, it does feel special, and people are less likely to touch it. So there could be opportunities on these islands to showcase a collection of products. And this, it was a credit union of all places, had a fantastic display, brought the price out to you so you didn't have to pick anything up to see what the price was. So because that's one of the #1 things people would need to touch a product for, bring it to them so they don't have to pick that up to find out that piece of the equation. So this is a great initial display in terms of merchandising. And I thought this was a great little, they use chalk pen, and this is kind of like a matte acrylic, so you can wipe it off and reuse it, but it's a way to bring that price forward in this small athletic supply store. So bring the price forward first and foremost, make sure that the shelves are clear. This retailer turned the can around, and I could read the label for the ingredients and the calories or whatever it is without having to pick up the can. So anticipate what information your shopper is going to need and see if you can provide it to them in a way that wouldn't necessarily necessitate that they have to pick it up and interact with it. I thought that was just a clever, simple thing. And maybe you don't have room for a ton of signs, but if you can group products together and put some information on a single sign, that's another way to re-merchandise your product and carry the information forward, a little more information besides just price. And sometimes if we need to, product density, sometimes we merchandise things behind each other. You see a color and then you find your sizes behind it. What we might need to do is, in this case, this is an example of where they took the product selection, perhaps different face outs, and they are spreading it so I can read my selection horizontally. I might have, before, they could have used less space and had the colors behind one another, and had other choices of chocolates or whatever it is. So when we talk about different approaches to merchandising, we might need to take and take what would have been a depth and make it a width, and it does end up taking up more room. So you have to go through and rationalize your SKUs and understand which categories are your shoppers coming in for or ordering online, and making sure that you give the room necessary for that. So just to start with what you do want, and then you might have a pile of what just doesn't fit anymore, and you can have an opportunity to rotate that in later. But space is at a premium, and you're going to have to prioritize. And that's something that we need to do anyway, but all the more important now that we are really limited on how we're using our indoor space. Mission shopping. Back to the Sherwin-Williams, I thought they did an excellent job helping the mission shopper who came in and got exactly what they needed, and they go up to pay and they realize, oh, I meant to get some painter's tape and I needed one more paintbrush, and they don't want to have to go back out into the store or have to interrupt anybody else that's shopping because we're respectful of their space. They brought those last minute items up to the counter and provided a customer convenience for me, and I'm like, oh, awesome, I can get it with the paint I just came to pick up. So think about, normally we don't like you to crowd too much up there for last minute shopping at the cash wrap, but in this case, this was excellent customer service, anticipating those last minute items that I might have to run back and gather to be checked out with. So that's an opportunity for you to think about what those items are for your customers and your categories. Plexiglass is here to stay, and what we want to talk about here with the plexiglass is that it is not a place for product promotion, Visa stickers and decals, vendor logos. It has to just be, I just want it to disappear. It has a function to prevent the exchange in terms of the droplets and the airflow. Don't start adding all sorts of other information. So Sherwin-Williams started, the employees saw an opportunity to put some things on it. I'm like, nope, get that stuff off. Just let it be its own little plexiglass. Affix it to your front counter. This isn't as elegant as that. This, to me, if you have an opportunity to hang it from the ceiling, great, but there's a lot of great solutions that sit right on top of the counter. But the point is that it should visually disappear. Let it just do its job, and don't ask it to do anything else by trying to communicate some messages on it. So as tempting as it is, just like it's tempting to put them on stickers on your front door, your employees get excited about things. Keep it clean, keep it clear. And we liked these showing people versus just telling people that you're cleaning things, you know, the clean to the dirty. We loved these clear jars because I could see that the jar is clean, that we don't have all that debris stuck in the bottom. And it was as simple as taking a chalk pen again and writing on there clean versus dirty. So it's another point of sale amenity that we're providing, as our contactless forms of payment, which are going to be ubiquitous in terms of us taking our phone and paying with that, or we're just swiping our credit card. We're all going to this these touchless systems. So it's reassuring. And if you, as fast as you can update your technology, do so, because that's where everything's going. And that brings us to the end of our shopper journey, from finding you online, making sure that you're open, calling, ordering something, and coming in to pick it up. And we thank you for your time with us today.
Just such a wealth of information, and from all the perspectives. I mean, you know, I love how you divided it, you know, before you get there, as you get there, and then once you go inside. I think that's a great way to look at it, because, you know, when you think about just retail display and stuff, you're thinking it's just in store, and it's not. And I traveled recently to go visit some family, and, you know, looking at folks online, we found was probably only 50% accurate on our trip, because they weren't updating the websites or the Yelp postings. And so we found that we needed to call every time, and that's not as convenient. You know, we wanted to look at it online and figure that out. And so, you know, posting those hours, if it's a restaurant, do they have indoor seating? Do they have outdoor seating? What are they currently doing? What's the protocol when I get there? So again, reduce that stress and anxiety. So I appreciate that. We'll take a couple questions. I'll do a little bit of summary here while we're waiting for some questions. But that's one thing that I pulled out that I think was very important. The other thing, I think Anne-Marie was talking about this with the curbside pickup, delivery, in-store pickup. We did a consumer survey here in Missouri, and between 50 and 70%, we asked those questions individually, but between 50 and 70% of folks want to see those things continue after COVID goes away. And so, you know, I think that that's a message to get out there. Yes, you need to do those things now to survive, but it's going to be a customer service piece afterwards. And so, Anne-Marie, I think that was a great comment. And are you guys seeing that same thing in other states?
Yes, it is convenient. and we were all kind of headed that way anyway, but nothing was really forcing our hand. We were kind of, you know, you're dabbling with maybe calling ahead and having somebody get your groceries ready, and then showing up and having them putting in your trunk.
Right.
All these things are out there. COVID just really sped up everything.
Well, and the companies that were using them have that advantage already. The folks that didn't, now they've got to backtrack and try to catch up.
Yeah. And
the other thing in our consumer survey was that folks, of course, you guys demonstrated that and reinforced it, that, you know, we love to order online. But our survey asked if you had a local small business option for online ordering, would you use it instead of the big box retailers? And the answer was overwhelmingly yes. And so just again, reinforcing that folks want the convenience, and that online component can reinforce their brick and mortar store.
Yep. It's a little more hustle for the stores right now, but it will pay off.
Yeah. So you guys talked about signage. Make sure you put the signs in the right positions or right places. So how do you know what is the right place to put those signs?
I think thinking like a shopper, first of all. So like we took the shopper journey through the store, starting at the curb or at the parking lot, whatever you have, walking through the store. I think it's thinking about not only the information that you want to impart, but thinking as a shopper, what would I be asking here? What would I be asking at the curb?
Across the street, I need to know you're open. So the scale and placement of we're open is different than we want you to wear a mask.
Right.
And I really, that's a very obvious sort of thing, but sometimes we see information about we'd like you to, masks are required and we want you to hand sanitize, and somebody's printing it on an 8.5 by 11 and it's just in 14-point font, and you're like, oh, okay. So what's the most important message? Bring that up so I can read it. And you don't need to tell me at the front door everything that you're doing to keep me safe and all the cleaning procedures that you've instituted. That information, get rid of it, you could tell me later at the front counter, or maybe that information could be placed throughout the store. And
Right.
as I'm looking at a product, I could come across did you know that we are doing this every 20 minutes? Or if you're trying on clothes, we've brought it back out to you. It's been sitting for 2 days. In terms, you can reassure what process you have in place, but give it to me at a later stage. We don't have to tape it all to the front door.
Right. Well, and I think that also goes back to that online presence, sharing online what you're doing as safety protocols, what you're doing and what you expect the customers to do. You know, you guys gave a lot of examples of different ways to share that. Sure, you want some information there for those that are going to come in the store, but there's a lot of different places to prep the customer for coming to the store.
Yeah. And, you know, so buy online pickup, curbside delivery, or buy online pickup in store. When I do get to the parking spot that we're going to, what's the next step? And if my next step is I'm supposed to call you or text you to let you know that I'm there, have that number on the storefront, because maybe I didn't have my phone or I just forgot where I was in the process, or it's not coming up as fast. And I look over and it says, here for pickup, call this number. And I can read it from sitting in my parked car. And that's a key piece of information. So feed me that next thing's like, all right, I'm practiced. First time I've done it. What do I do now? That's a pertinent piece of information. Normally we wouldn't have had our phone number that big in that location on the window, but now we do. So that's,
well, I think you said it earlier, is just, you know, think like the customer. You know, what are they gonna be standing in front or sitting in front of their car wanting to know? And just don't assume that they have it all in their technology, or, you know, what are the important things I need to convey? And I also love the station right inside the door. Beautiful placement. Again, I was traveling a little bit, and you saw them everywhere and anywhere in the store, and many times we missed it. So that's another place to communicate, as you guys demonstrated. Here's the hand sanitizer. We want you to use it when you come in. You need to wear a mask. You know, here's the expectations. And so, you know, these little points of how do we communicate that? So I thought the station right inside the door was another great idea, and looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, and that placement does matter. When we're out there, we'll get deeper into terminology like the decompression zone. How big is it? Where is it? Everybody has one. And knowing that shoppers go through this zone on the way to being in your store mentally and physically, we know by watching people come in the door where they slow up or stop, and we see them switch gears, and it's not right by the front door. So knowing where that spot is in your store is going to be where you put the hand sanitizing station, or slightly off to the right, just barely. So you know exactly where they're going to stop, and that's where you should put it, not before and not after. But that's really taking time to watch people or have known where how they use your store. And
you guys are using research and watching behaviors and all that stuff to determine those things. So great info. We're way over time because that is such a relevant topic. And you ladies provided some great information for our folks here in Missouri, and I know we have folks that also participate from out of state. Have a question? Do you guys have a blog? How do people communicate? I know you've got your email address on and phone number there. Do you have channels that people can follow you?
Instagram, and just look for my name. I even have fun. We have some fun Pinterest boards for different themes and best practices. Front door back store design on that, and Facebook. Look for front door back.
Great.
This is we like to just call us, text us, and let's. Yeah, email is really the best way. We love getting emails. Yeah, and as you can see, we can talk and talk and talk.
Yeah. Perfect. Lots of comments coming in. Great presentation, ladies. Thank you. Remind everybody that this will be recorded and will be on our COVID page for folks that weren't able to join, or share it with your retailers in your districts if they weren't able to attend. So, ladies, thank you very much. And I know we'll see you two in a few weeks working here in Missouri. So look forward to that. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for the time.
Make it a great day.